sonrisa, aguantándose llorar. La espuma de su orilla parecieran de champán. Son alcohol para la herida, para la tristeza bailar. Son alcohol para la herida, porque hay mucho que sanar. En el verde monte adentro no se puede respirar. Las nubes están más cerca, con Dios se puede hablar. Soy el jíbaro llorando, otro más que se marchó. No quería irse volando, pero el corrupto lo echó. Y no se sabe hasta cuándo quieren quitar. Esto fue un sueño que yo tuve. Ella se ve bonita, que a veces le vaya mal. En los ojos una sonrisa, aguantándose llorar. La espuma de su orilla parecieran de champán. Son alcohol para la herida, para la tristeza bailar. Son alcohol para la herida, porque hay mucho que sanar. En el verde monte adentro no se puede respirar. Las nubes están más cerca, con Dios se puede hablar. Soy el jíbaro llorando, otro más que se marchó. No quería irse volando, pero el corrupto lo echó. Y no se sabe hasta cuándo quieren quitarme el río y también la playa. Quieren el barrio mío y que abuelita se vaya. No, no suelten la bandera, ni olviden la lola. Que no quiero que hagan contigo lo que le pasó a Hawái. Cuidado, Luis, cuidado. Aquí nadie quiso irse, quien se fue sueña con volver. Si algún día me tocara, que mucho me va a doler. Otra jíbara luchando, una que no se dejó. No quería irse tampoco y en la isla se quedó. Y no se sabe hasta cuándo quieren quitarme el río y también la playa. Quieren el barrio mío y que tus hijos se vayan. No, no suelten la bandera, me olvidé la lola. Que no quiero que hagan contigo lo que te pasó a Hawái. No, no suelten la bandera, me olvidé la lola. Que no quiero que hagan contigo.
In a world where January is...
Peace, everybody.
Peace, everybody on Instagram. Although it's streaming in 3 different places, but first and foremost, my name is Rosa Clemente. I am doing these pop-up kind of things on my show, Disrupt the Chaos. I have spent, usually I have somebody that will be like, I can hear you, you sound good. Somebody on Instagram gave me like a okay. Also, you can go to my YouTube page for comments because I feel like, well, it's also 4:00 and everybody in the Northeast is either at a supermarket or getting ready to lock down. But okay, thank you, sis. Oh no, thank you, homie. Bogard, photography. Oh, that's dope. Thank you. Okay, either everybody's waiting to get off work, going to and from work, locking down for this huge northeast storm that's coming. But I had to write. I have been writing this since this past weekend. And then what happened this week, just alone, I was like, I have to write, you know? Oh, Minneapolis. Oh my God. Stand strong, y'all. Like, yes. In 10-degree weather. Okay, yeah. It always says that after I play like a song that they're gonna cut me off. Okay. Okay, so they're like, don't play it again, which I wasn't. Thank you, Minneapolis. I had to write something, but just a quick reset. My name is Rosa Clemente, here in Albany, New York. This is Disrupt the Chaos. I've been doing some pop-up ones just to like stay on top of really certain things. What up, Sayla? Oh, I love that. So I understand that it's for, and people are either getting ready to go home, coming to work, going to work. Plus, there's this huge storm coming that's really going to impact the Northeast. I live in Albany, New York, so I'm always like, what's big? But they're saying this one is big. I think that I do not have the concept of time anymore. Like, what time is it? What day is it? What crazy, incoherent, senile-minded gonna say today? And I feel like everybody's feeling that way. And it just gets worse and worse. Okay? As a historian, I'm like, they're all bad. I think today it got real, like real, that they're coming after organizers, activists, journalists, professors, teachers. They out in full force. And the thing is, they're doing it in democratic states. And now democratic states don't have the capacity to stop them. Because if they go talk this in Iowa or Utah, the people that would be like, this is amazing, arrest more of them, please. You know, like, arrest them more. We're done with all that stuff. And I've said it from the beginning. This game's going to change when they start arresting organizing activists and saying, I'm arresting organizers and activists, and then putting pictures on their website, taking pictures with the 2 sisters that you just had arrested on some Assata Shakur is in the wheelchair getting wheeled to the hospital. And the New Jersey cops are taking pictures of her as she's dying. She didn't die. She lived. But she almost died. And she made it to Cuba and lived the rest of her life there. And what a sacrifice. A sacrifice. So here we are. It's even different than it was last night when we all went to sleep. Or if you work a day job, you're sleeping right now. And by the time you wake up to go to work again. We still have political prisoners from the 60s and the 70s that Jericho movement is trying to get out. Most people know Mumia Abu-Jamal, and yes, as well as Mumia Abu-Jamal. So now it's going to be younger people, but this is when they started. No, I haven't seen that AI modified photo. Thank you for pointing out it's AI. I'm really getting good at understanding AI. And yeah, I need to do a week on that alone. Right. And then, which has not been getting a lot of coverage. Oh yeah, drop that in the link so I can see it. I mean, I'm not going to share it. Well, if we drop it, is it going to be shared? I don't want to see it unless it's real. But I lost my train of thought there for a second. Let me backtrack to what I was saying. Every movement wins when it gets out all its political prisoners. So we got elders in there that are in their 80s. Luckily, the Jericho movement and 30 years of organizing. This is crazy. I don't even know how that got turned on. That are still fighting for some of their comrades to come out. Because nobody's free until they're free. But then what a sacrifice. And what a sacrifice from these two sisters. First of all, nobody goes into a church protesting that they think they're going to be arrested by the police. And people like, it's never happened. It happened mad in the 80s when ACT UP was at its peak around the AIDS epidemic and George Bush and them not doing enough. And they started an organization called ACT UP. And they would go hundreds in like St. Patrick's Cathedral, all the way to small churches. Philippe Luciano and the Young Lords took over a church in East Harlem. Check out the Daughters and Sons of Borinquen, who's been very dope at bringing in a new generation or new people into that next phase of work. Felipe Luciano says, all I knew was I got to start getting hit with calidambras, like the things that hold the candles, and then he was sleeping on his own blood. But before Felipe, it was Chacha Jimenez in Chicago when he met Fred Hampton. When Fred Hampton created the Rainbow Coalition, the Young Lords were part of that because they were comrades. And Chacha decided to take a street organization into an organization called the Young Lords Party, or the Young Lords Organization, putting in for the difference in the Young Lords Party and the Young Lords Organization, right? So these are two seasoned activists and organizers, but if they're going up in churches and people are like, they shouldn't have come in there. And I'm like, absolutely, you should go in there. You know why? Because all churches are nonprofits. You're all nonprofits, which is why you see a lot of church people flossing because they're taken from us and they're nonprofit and don't have to pay taxes. So that's a public space if it's brick and mortar. But they were looking to do this anyway. So I think if we were to recap this week, I would say that Donald Trump trolled the entire United States, the movement, and the world. He says some crazy shit like, I'm taking over Greenland, when he knows you can't do it, or he knows if you attempt to do it, maybe one of his Senate or their cabinet members, two of them got together and were like, yo, this dude's gotta go. Let's invoke the 25th Amendment and remove him right now. Of course, they're not going to do that because they're sycophants for this crazy cult. Like, oh man, I keep trying to think of new words for all of them. So I think it was a troll because all of this Greenland and the World Economic Forum, which in itself is a white supremacist international forum for capitalism, you know. But it was interesting to see these European leaders be like, yo, we get not. I mean, I have to say, I'd like the response from Denmark's president, where he was like, well, in the words that you will understand, fuck off. I was like, yes. And none of these European countries are without shame. None of them would exist without 400 years of an African enslavement and the killing of indigenous people. There would be no World Economic Forum at Davos. So he's trolling the ICE and all of them like, while I'm gone, y'all do what you do, and I'll get the news media to cover on that shit, and y'all step up. And how did they step up 2 days ago? They released some green and white type of chemical that Department of Homeland Security is not saying what type of chemical that is. And then there's another, I think he might have been a photographer. I seen a journalist hit. He was like, mad people were on top of him, and then they sprayed directly into his like face. So this is happening, right? He's over there. And then what happens? Yesterday, DHS launched Operation Catch of the Day, targeting Somali immigrants and Latinos, because there's Latinos. Maine is mad small, just like Rhode Island, but there's a lot of Latinos in both of these states. So they, you know, that's how sick they are. I think they just have a group of people. They're like, think of the sickest, grossest term you can make for our next operation. And somebody there said, oh my God, Maine, lobsters, Maine, fish, Operation Catch of the Day. That's what they called it. And then we got this morning, and Nakia Levy Armstrong and Chantel Louisa Allen were taken into federal custody. I'm telling you, the next phase is this weekend, where people are going to come together right tomorrow, starting tomorrow. That's what they're preparing for on the 23rd. Let me find that. That's what they're preparing for, the protests that are going to be taken on tomorrow in the state of Minnesota, not just the Twin Cities. And there'll be marches, I think, in other states and states that will be, yeah. So tomorrow, on January, now this is interesting, on January 13th, faith leaders and labor unions announced plans for January 23rd economic blackout, asking people not to go to work, shop, or go to school. Who's leading it? Church people, who wouldn't arrest people if they had someone in their church doing that. That was a level of civil disobedience. So they're calling for economic boycott. I think a lot of people in the Twin Cities particular are not sending their kids to school. And I feel like this is important. Like, everybody has a role to play. Y'all know what I'm saying? I love all y'all. And y'all need to come on YouTube and drop some comments. I'm seeing like heavy hitters up in here today. Yeah, thank y'all. I appreciate y'all. This is where we're at, fam. So I'm gonna read. Now I'm gonna tell everybody this from the get-go. I don't write for anybody. I've never written for anybody, like, per se. Like, I've never pitched a story for the most part. Like if I was covering something, I would be like, yo, by the way, Davey, tomorrow I'm gonna send you this footage. Can you have me on tomorrow, kind of thing. But I write rarely because I actually despise the process of writing. When your seventh grade teacher says you're not going to be a writer or not good, it always sticks with you. And I just remember a teacher telling me that. So I probably internalized that for the rest of my life. But, that's why it took me 5 to 6 days to finish it, because I was, as things were changing, I was like, oh, I got to change some things here. Okay. So I posted it. I hope somebody tell me the link in bio is working, because it's the first time I posted. Usually I would have somebody to do that for me, but I don't. So I hope somebody here or here can be like, no, it goes right to your link. And if it doesn't, just go to rosaclemente.net and it's up there already. All right. I'm reading it out loud because I'm going to take this audio of reading it and send it to some people that said, yo, if you do an audio commentary, I'll play it. You know what? But before we get that, I would be remiss, fam, if we don't talk about Keith Porter, an African-American man that was killed by ICE on New Year's Eve. And in fact, I'm going to share the screen a little bit to show Black Lives Matter Grassroots and the founder of it, Dr. Melina Abdullah. And Melina, that's why I was texting like mad. She was probably like, why are you up? It's only 12. Because I sleep the opposite way. With insomnia, I stay up to like 4 a.m. and then I sleep. Okay, and I have to play this. So I'm going to share the screen because this is not getting the amount of attention it should be. All right, let me make sure this works. So I guess I'll say entire screen. Oh, no, I can share like that. Oh, perfect. Oh.
This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman in New York, joined by Democracy Now!'s Juan Gonzalez in Chicago. Hi, Juan.
Hi, Amy, and welcome to all of our listeners and viewers across the country and around the world.
We begin today's show looking at growing resistance to the Trump administration's mass immigration raids and federal agents escalating violence nationwide. Protests are continuing over ICE agent Jonathan Ross's fatal shooting of 37-year-old mother of 3, poet Renee Good, in Minneapolis last week. On Monday, dozens of federal agents wearing tactical gear and masks fired pepper balls and tear gas at a crowd of protesters in Minneapolis who shouted, "Shame, shame, shame," and "Get the F out" at the agents. This comes as the state of Minnesota has sued the Trump administration in an effort to block the crackdown and the surge of agents coming into the state. The cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul are also part of the lawsuit. Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison announced the legal challenge Monday as Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem vowed to deploy hundreds more agents this week.
Deployment of thousands of armed, masked DHS agents to Minnesota has done our state serious harm. This is, in essence, a federal invasion of the Twin Cities and Minnesota, and it must stop. DHS agents have sown chaos and terror across the metropolitan area and in cities across the state of Minnesota.
Minnesota's lawsuit was filed shortly after Illinois and the city of Chicago also sued the Trump administration, accusing DHS of terrorizing its residents in a, quote, organized bombardment, unquote. Federal immigration agents have terrorized communities across Minnesota, carrying out hundreds of arrests. Last week, Border Patrol deployed chemical weapons, tackled people, and handcuffed 2 staff members at Roosevelt High School in Minneapolis. In another case, just days ago, a DoorDash delivery driver sprinted into a home where she was delivering a food order as she attempted to take shelter from ICE agents who chased her and sought to detain her.
I ordered DoorDash. This lady ran into my house. They don't have a warrant, but they told me I was going to be charged with harboring.
They were going to break down my door.
They were going to break down my door. She's from Minnesota. She has a Minnesota license. I a baby! A baby!
Out of here.
Get out! Until you guys have a warrant signed, get off my property
Yes.
now!
To all the
In another incident, armed federal immigration agents broke down the door of a home in North Minneapolis Sunday without a warrant. The agents used a battering ram to get inside the house in an attempt to arrest a Liberian man. Occupants inside the home included the man's 9-year-old daughter. Meanwhile, on Monday, agents rammed the car of a Latino man in South Minneapolis, then questioned his immigration status. Christian Molina said he was pulled over and only let go after he told agents he was a U.S. citizen.
It's not safe out here. It's not safe. You know, people aren't safe, so just, I mean, I'm glad they didn't shoot me or something. Because, you know, what if they start shooting me? You know what I mean? They have guns.
The man was leaning against his car. The back of it was smashed in. He said an ICE agent bashed in his car. This all comes as activists in Los Angeles are demanding justice for Keith Porter Jr., an African-American 43-year-old father of 2 who was fatally shot by an off-duty ICE agent on New Year's Eve. His family's urging transparency in the investigation into his killing. Porter's mother, Franciola Armstrong, spoke at a vigil this weekend.
From day one that he was born, I knew he was my joy. When he came around, people looked for him. He was a joy to be around. My son, the biggest heart, sympathetic, appreciative, so much gratitude.
On Keith Porter Jr.'s fatal shooting New Year's Eve, we're joined by 2 guests. In Compton, California, Janae Tyler is the cousin of Keith Porter Jr. She is the parent and family organizer for Students Deserve, and she's a Black Lives Matter Los Angeles member. And in Los Angeles, we're joined by Melina Abdullah, co-founder of Black Lives Matter Los Angeles. She organizes globally with Black Lives Matter Grassroots, also a professor of Pan-African Studies at California State University, Los Angeles. We welcome you both to Democracy Now! Melina Abdullah, let's begin with you. What do you understand happened on New Year's Eve when Porter was killed by an off-duty ICE officer with his ICE weapon?
Yes, thanks for covering this, Amy. It's really important to understand that as people are righteously and rightfully enraged and mourning the murder of Renee Good, that we also lift up Keith Porter Jr. Keith Porter Jr. was a 43-year-old Black father of 2 girls. On New Year's Eve, he was celebrating at his own home, and like thousands around the country, we understand that he may have stepped outside of his home and fired a celebratory shot in the air, which many, many people do and which is widely acknowledged by city officials. His apartment complex is fairly large, and an ICE agent lived in that complex who went inside, put on his tactical gear, came back outside, and shot Keith Porter dead in front of his own home on New Year's Eve.
And Melina, the LAPD and the LA County District Attorney's Office has said they're investigating the incident. What do you know about their investigation? And of course, this could take quite a bit of time to resolve.
Yeah, what we know is nothing is happening, and the community has been told nothing. The family has been told nothing. There's not been a word uttered by the mayor of the city. Almost no elected official here has said anything. We know that we've been demanding the name of the ICE agent who killed Keith Porter. We've gotten nothing. We've demanded an arrest. An arrest has not been made. We've made demands of the district attorney that charges be filed. He basically said he doesn't intend to do anything. And so the community is going to have to mobilize. We've been mobilized since day one, but we're going to have to add increased pressure on our elected officials. We have an absolutely terrible chief of police, Jim McDonnell, who was collaborating with ICE when he was sheriff of the county, who is refusing to really do anything to honor Keith Porter. Instead, early reports, when they were asked for comment, early reports hailed the gunman, hailed the killer as a quote unquote hero, and called the victim, who is Keith Porter. Keith Porter is a victim, called him a suspect and an active shooter. And so it's disgusting. And we have several demands that we're making that the murderer who killed Keith Porter be named, arrested, and charged, as well as they stop with the character assassination of this Black father worker, loved by his community and the only child of his mother. And so we're creating the pressure because ultimately it's going to be the community that steps up for Keith Porter.
I'd like to bring in Shanae Tyler into the conversation as well, the cousin of Keith Porter Jr. Our deepest condolences on your cousin's killing. Could you tell us a little bit about him and how your family learned of what happened?
Oh, my goodness. First of all, I want to say thank you to you guys, and thank you to Dr. Molina, because she just centered everything that we're asking for as a family. Keith was an amazing human being. He was a girl dad. I keep saying that because the most important thing to him was his children and his family. He loved on everyone around him. He was always the life of the room, not just a party, but in any room. When he walked in, he brought joy. He always had a laugh, a joke, a smile. He was the one that uplifted others, and unfortunately, he's been stolen from us.
And what information has your family received since the killing?
None whatsoever. We've not received any information in regards to whether there'll be a full investigation or not. Again, like Dr. Abdullah said, they've not named the suspect. They've not arrested the suspect. What we do know is that night procedure was not followed. Even after the ICE agent finally went ahead and called 911, I had to sit and watch video that was shared privately by a neighbor of them calling for him to surrender or shelter in place, which is an oxymoron. You can't do both. And as it stands, he was already presumably dead. There was no medical aid or emergency services on site that could have maybe saved his life. And so we know that night, Keith was celebrating. He was waiting for, company to come. His girlfriend, the young lady that he's been dating for a long time now, the reason that he moved to the Valley, he moved out there for love, to be close to her. And, he sent her for the food pickup that evening. And she got a call, when the place wasn't open where they decided their New Year's Eve meal was going to be from. She's tried to call Keith, and when he didn't answer, she immediately returned home. And by the time, just that quick, that she had left and come back, unfortunately, he had already been stolen from us. He had already been murdered. And so what we do know is that everyone in that complex has said that they loved him, that he was, even amazing towards them. He had only been there for 11 months, and they knew everything about Keith, but they knew nothing about his murderer. What we know is that there was no sobriety check, a sobriety test given for this officer. We don't know what state of mind he was in. We don't know what he was in his home doing as he was celebrating New Year's Eve. He could have been on drugs. He could have been under, 5 bottles of vodka. We have no clarity in where this man's state of mind was. What we do know is that with this mass call for ICE agents with no experience, the people who seem to have shown up to take these positions, a majority of them are people that now feel like they have a right to consider us not valuable enough for them to follow procedure. They're, these are people who have had G.I. Joe dreams, I call them, for a long time. And they're, conducting themselves as vigilantes. And it seems that they're causing more harm to American citizens. They stole Keith from us. Make no mistake, as far as the family is concerned, this man is a murderer. And we want justice for Keith.
Janae, our deepest condolences to you and your family. And Professor Abdullah, 2 quick questions as we wrap up. One, in Minnesota, the federal government is refusing to cooperate with the state and the city in investigating the death of Renee Good. And I'm wondering how it's playing out in California right now with the investigation of Mr. Porter's death. And also this connection between the Abolish ICE movement, around the country with that play on words, ICE out for good, referring to Renee Good, and the Black Lives Matter movement. Of course, she was killed just blocks from where George Floyd was killed 5 years ago. Professor Abdullah.
Yeah, I think that when we talk about abolishing ICE, it's really, really important. And we're grateful to Keith's family for saying that this is systemic, that they stand with abolishing ICE. And we also have to remember that what we've seen in Minneapolis with at least local officials stepping up and being outraged by the murder of Renee Good, we have not seen in Los Angeles. The Los Angeles leadership, with the exception of City Council member Ionesis Hernandez, has not said anything, has not made any demands of federal government around Keith Porter's murder. And we need to see that. We need to see leadership. So the conflict really that we see is the people versus ICE and the people versus the police, with very little support from local elected officials and local government.
And that connection with the Black Lives Matter movement all over the country right now.
Absolutely. So from day one, as soon as Trump took office, Black Lives Matter grassroots put out a statement about ICE. When ICE invaded Los Angeles, we put out another statement. We said this is bad for Black people, and we hate that it was shown to be true so clearly. In our statement, one of the things that we've said is never in the history of this country has more police been good for Black people. And we foretold the murder of Keith Porter, that when you have ICE agents who are police on steroids, living in community, plaguing community, claiming, our community is under siege, Black people are going to catch the brunt of it. And that's what's happening with Keith Porter. One, if there's a silver lining, it's the solidarity. And so we're really, really grateful that Black community and brown community, as well as visionary and progressive and courageous white allies and allies of color, have stepped up. And we've all said ICE out of LA and ICE out of everywhere, as well as an end to policing that steals the lives of our people.
I want to thank you for being with us. Professor Melina Abdullah, co-founder of Black Lives Matter Los Angeles, teaches Pan-African Studies at California State University, Los Angeles. And thank you so much to Janae Tyler, joining us from Compton, California, cousin of Keith Porter Jr., killed by an off-duty ICE agent on New Year's Eve with his ICE weapon. As Iran...
Reset. Hey, everybody, my name is Rosa Clemente. I'm an organizer, activist, producer, professor, and an outraged mother and an outraged human. And I'm realizing how critical. Wait, hold on, because I see this. We're getting together tomorrow. Oh, for Albanese. Oh, you know what? Lots of English 781. Hit me with the details at Clemente Rosa, no space, at Gmail. Send me all the information. I appreciate you. You don't have to go either. I know everybody's doing their best, including me, but our best isn't good enough right now unless we do some truly, truly intentional organizing in our communities and bring folks together, you know. But as a Boricua, I would be, I would not, I'm thinking of the right words to say it. I would not be able to like talk about the heroes and heroes of the Puerto Rican independence movement. Or maybe let's start with the Tainos trying to fight back Columbus, and then all the Africans, right? All the Africans. By the end of 1800, half the population of Puerto Rico was defined as African. But I gotta say it, I do it for the ancestors. Empire, domestic terrorism, and why Bad Bunny should not perform at the Super Bowl. Harry Belafonte. My responsibility as an artist is to uplift, to inspire, to motivate, to provoke, to agitate, and to liberate. Artists are the gatekeepers of the truth. We are civilization's radical voice. Lolita Lebron. Before God in my world, my body claims independence of Puerto Rico. I give myself for the freedom of my country. This is a cry for victory in our struggle for independence. The United States of America is betraying the sacred principles of mankind in its continuous subjugation of my country. 1971. Lolita Lebron, after she and her 3 other comrades were released, having spent at that time 30, 40 years, 30 something. And then with all the work that Boricuas were doing, and mind you, this is at that time the kind of end of the Black Panther Party, all those other organizations, including the Young Lords Party, you know, and going into this period that I call the lost 70s, because every time I see history, it's like 60s and the 80s. And I'm like, wait, what was lost in the 70s? And a lot was lost in the 70s still, but all these organizations were winding down. But she got out, right? But when she went to the United States Congress with her 3 other comrades to go and use revolutionary violence, first they lived. She had that in the napkin when they took her purse. Somebody pictured it, right? So that's Lolita. Bad Bunny's cultural impact is undeniable. Benito Antonio Martinez Ocasio has leveraged his global platform to awaken millions to a fundamental truth. Puerto Rico is a colony under siege by the United States, and it's long past time that we are freed from 128 years of United States colonization. He has shifted the consciousness of the Puerto Rican diaspora and the world in ways that organizers have struggled to achieve for decades, a significant accomplishment deserving of profound gratitude. Bad Bunny excluded the United States from his world tour, explaining to ID Magazine that he feared his Latino fans would be subjected to immigration raids. As he told The Guardian, the decision stemmed from genuine concern about ICE targeting concert attendees. He made the deliberate, principled choice to hold his residency in Puerto Rico so that undocumented fans could attend without risk of ICE arrests, understanding how the state power can be weaponized against the vulnerable. This makes the Super Bowl performance decision he made even more confusing, particularly given Homeland Security Kristi's Noem announcement that ICE will conduct enforcement operations at the Super Bowl itself. When asked by a right-wing podcaster whether there would be ICE informant at the event, she replied, ICE officers will be all over this game in different communities way away from the actual stadium, adding that people should only attend if they are law-abiding Americans who love this country. Reports now indicate that ICE commercials will run throughout the broadcast. Another troubling contradiction is his multi-year partnership to develop Puerto Rico by creating the Compa, that's how they say it, and then it's Compa, local storefront for Puerto Rican goods, and to build schools in Puerto Rico. Amazon has faced criticism for its treatment of workers and retaliation against employers who attempt to unionize. Amazon Web Services provide cloud infrastructure for ICE and the Department of Homeland Security, hosting databases that enable tracking and deportation. Firms such as Palantir. Let me reset that one. ICE supports ICE systems, including from data analyst firms such as Palantir, which store biometric information and process vast amounts of data for immigration enforcement. Jeff Bezos could not care less about the people of Puerto Rico. This deal is also to assert a foothold on the land and exploit both the land and the people, because that's what colonizers do. Amazon will not change the material conditions of the people. Puerto Rican independence only will. I'm making notes too, because there's so much I wanted to say, but even though this sounds long, it's not that long. If it wasn't clear before, it is now. The last 3 weeks have demonstrated that Kristi, Noem, the Department of Homeland Security, ICE, Pam Bondi, the Department of Justice, President Donald Trump, and his administration are all the domestic terrorists. On December 31st, Keith Porter, a Black father, son, neighbor, and community member, stepped outside his front door to celebrate. Like many others in Los Angeles, he fired his gun in the air to celebrate the coming of 2026. ICE.
Toronto, Ontario, Canada, +1.
Yeah, I know who is from Canada. They're going to have to wait, though. He fired his gun in the air to celebrate the coming of 2026. ICE agent Brian Palacios, who lived in the same complex, went inside his own unit. Mind you, he was off duty. Went inside his own unit, put on his tactical gear, grabbed his ICE-issued firearm, stepped back inside, and shot him dead in front of his own phone. Everybody who's been watching from the beginning, they got to see Dr. Melina Abdullah and the cousin of Keith Porter. They did an interview 2 days ago on Democracy Now! I played it earlier for anybody who's just starting to tune in. January 7th, January 3rd, that one I have to add. Then we wake up and he kidnapped Maduro and his wife. January 7th, the World Watch as ICE agent Jonathan Ross shot 3 times and murdered Renee Good in Minneapolis, Minnesota. January 19th, the Pentagon ordered 1,500 troops to prepare for a possible deployment to Minnesota, a threat that President Donald Trump has made in response to the unrest, and 2 battalions have been called up and are in place for preparing to deploy orders in case he does, plus he invoked the Insurrection Act. January 21st, yesterday, DH, the Department of Homeland Security, launched, quote, Operation Catch of the Day, quote, in Maine, targeting Somali and other Latino immigrants. And then this morning, we get this from the Department of Justice from Pam Bondi. 2 people were arrested on Thursday morning in connection with a controversial protest at a Minnesota church on Sunday. Pam Bondi posted on social media that Nikia Levy-Armstrong and Chantel Louisa Allen were taken into custody that morning. Charging papers are not immediately available, and the Justice Department did not did not immediately return a request for a comment. But she did say, listen loud and clear. We do not tolerate attacks on places of worship, Bondi said in a post on the White House website. And Kristi Noem, the Homeland Security Secretary, celebrated Armstrong's arrest on social media and posted a picture of her being detained. Armstrong was charged under a statute that makes it a crime to conspire to block someone from exercising their civil rights. I got to add this too. But the ordinance was for to make sure that doors would not be blocked by right wingers and abortion protesters when women were going to either get abortion or reproductive care, mostly at the Planned Parenthood, and that's from The Guardian. The empire we know is not the empire we woke up to yesterday, and we don't know what will happen tomorrow. What we do know is the empire is crumbling. And unfortunately, there will be more casualties, and those casualties will be mostly Black and brown people. The Super Bowl holds the empire. It is more than a football game. It is the display of American nationalism, militarism, imperialism, and patriarchy. The NFL as an institution has historically profited from commodifying the bodies of Black and brown players. Bad Bunny cannot claim to stand against U.S. colonialism while serving as halftime entertainment for the most visible celebration of that dominance. To take that stage is to provide a veneer of cultural and political progress. Bad Bunny, Benito has a choice to make. This is the moment where his words meet the politics of now. Choose the moment over the spectacle, the community over the corporation, liberation of all our people over celebrity. Choose the people and tell the NFL to fuck off. Trust me, you will be remembered more for your decision to stand by the politics. You will be remembered more, not your performance, but you yourself. I'm ready for all of it. I'll wait until tomorrow to see how many, maybe they're already coming up, hate messages I'll be getting, but like for real, I don't care. Like, I've been not ever reading comments. So now reading them when it's like something like this, I'm like, I'm good with it. You know, because like I get it, people are in their feelings. But my larger question is, if Bad Bunny is your only reference to the people and the culture and the identity of Puerto Rican people, like you want to have a conversation, you went to the Bad Bunny residency. Nice. Did you like it? Yeah, you know, I spent mad money on it. And I said, I'm doing this right now, improv. And then I say, man, I wish I would have gone. Because last year I was like, man, I wish I would have bought tickets. I would have came to this conclusion eventually, but I was like, what? And plus, like, you know what it is? He's not a political leader. So I'm like, you made a really good album, a beautiful album. You know, that's all good. And because he has been so strong in talking against the colonial condition in Puerto Rico. And then I said, oh, well, he's still young. He's 31. And I said, no. And then I said, wait a minute. When did I ever even think like that? And then I was like, yo, these people are terrorizing children all over this country. Just because the camera hasn't been there doesn't mean that things are not happening. In fact, in Maine, it might even be more brutal because everybody's going to be focused on Minneapolis. But look, right now, Minneapolis is also grappling with however people feel about their elected officials. I mean, they're all Democrats. So nothing the Democrats do ever surprised me. This one surprised me. And then I went back to after Reconstruction and this period where African-American people were beginning to thrive. And there were more than 2 senators in the actual U.S. Senate. I mean, all the states hadn't joined it or had been taken over and made to join. I was like, nah, man, somebody's got to say it. Because now, and I'm not a Democrat, I ran on the Green Party. I support the Green Party. I give them money and I give the Party for Socialism and Liberation money, and I don't F around with DSA. And I know that's someone that took away AOC's endorsement and people feel fine with that. Or then Mondami and them, the crazy thing is he really didn't say anything that revolutionary, right? Like, yeah, people need fair housing and they need free buses. Only time will tell. That line from Mondami is going to be the next time an NYPD officer kills a Black or a brown person. That's how I be thinking, like, because what he does that day will be defining his mayorship. And also, look up Howard Jordan. Howard Jordan's, I would say the 60s generations, been on BAI forever. He's always really supported me, given me advice or had me on his show a lot. And I just saw this post where there's apparently like no Latinos or maybe a few only in Mondami's, the people he hired. His team, his closest team. And I was like, that would not be surprising to me. Even though if you look at the Puerto Rican history from the early 1900s, so I would say to the 2000s, before gentrification really, really hit hard, Puerto Rican and African Americans were always protesting together and protesting all the same systemic conditions, So that's why I'm always like, I don't look to elected officials to solve anything really. Melina Abdullah, who had a great relationship, with Karen Bass, just recently wrote an article why, like, Karen Bass disappointed her, and that she's like, I should have known better. There's sometimes people get elected and they make it really feel like, oh yes, they're always, they're going to talk about the real issues in our community as well, And I know Mondami has put in like an office where it's going to focus on helping organizations that are not, in any way affiliated with police officers, a community, I think, in safety position. I think that's great. I hope he does spend more money on mental health. And you know what? I hope he does it. But there's a lot of other places in the country, and even in Puerto Rico, that are on some next level, where it's like, I don't want to stay in New York City the rest of my life. I'm out. I live in Albany, New York. I'll be here until it's time to be out. If earlier, hopefully, when Puerto Rico gets free. Yeah, so there's investigations against the mayor, the governor, and the attorney general, Keith Ellison. Like, what more are we supposed, like, people who don't have our politics, what more can we tell people? I'm actually asking that question. I'm going to look if somebody asks me or someone on YouTube, like, I need to know, like, is it a massacre? Is it, the country's still humming on with the arrest of 2 activists. Like, is it simply a numbers thing? Is it just that we actually have more people that are more like, who used to be progressive, then went to liberal, then went to moderate, and now are like on this crazy side? I don't know. Like, what are we supposed to be doing? We keep going out there. So, simplemente Rebecca. Yeah, it is. It's totally given into the empire. And then people are going to be like, oh my God, he made so much money. Absolutely. For the, the Airbnbs, I mean, the money that they say he put into the economy. They do this now with all artists. They did it with Taylor Swift. Right now, they're going to do it again at the Super Bowl with Bad Bunny, so. But the Super Bowl is such a violent place anyway. I hate it. I've always hated the sport. I really have. And I don't understand how people could overlook that every year there are sports players who sexually beat their women and still get to play. I was looking at the numbers from that, and the numbers were pretty high. Like, I was just like curious, because I'm like, to me, Super Bowl is a hyper masculine, like, capitalist venture of billions of dollars. And the rest of us are out here just trying to survive. And then those of us that are organizing activists are trying to be our, like, we might have our job and then we can do our activism. We don't do it within the jobs. Some of us have people that do their job is organizing or teaching, and I'm not saying those things are easy. What I'm saying is I think it also comes down to the fact that we understand capitalism more than we've ever understood, but we also understand and we want freedom and what that looks like. So is there a price? Because you don't get paid to do the Super Bowl. And you don't need to. You're worth $100 million. And then I was like, he's a brand. He's a record company. He has a great marketing team and all that. He's a brand. But you can't say, again, because I believe wait a minute, ICE was out there a little bit, and ICE is in Puerto Rico, but it's not carrying out the way it's carrying in the empire, most because all the police, for the most part, are Puerto Rican, and there's some familiarity with that, right? Like, I hate you're a cop, but I see you're like, okay, like, so I'm not going to be judging what I'm not going to be judging the way that residency, again, changed the minds also, plus a new generation. But look, you know what else has changed the minds? 2017 Hurricane Maria hit. Trump throws out paper towels, and then, like, I'm sure within minutes, there was a Boricua that was like, fuck this. We don't need you. Because PR on the map, when we were down there covering this, that's the kind of politic we were seeing. And it was so life affirming and rewarding, and like, things could look different down here. And in fact, things might look different because everybody was on some, you know what, we're going to build it. You know what? No, we're all going to the entire community, we're going to build Abuela's house, number one. The younger people can wait. We'll get there. And literally do that in almost all the towns in Puerto Rico. Because if you live on the island of Puerto Rico and you've been there your whole life, for sure, if you've been there even 15 years, the economic conditions were always terrible. That's a reason hundreds of thousands of Boricuas came to the United States. from the 40s to the 70s and what people say of forced migration. Like if you ask those elders and you're like, yo, if you had a good job and infrastructure was good and the schools are great, would you leave Puerto Rico? They'll be like, hell no, I'm staying right here in my homeland. The fact that Puerto Rico is 3 hours away from the state of Florida. So oftentimes people on the island will be like, you know, you don't even live here. And that wasn't why the folks that went down there were like, we're living here right now. What we went down there to do was cover that mutual aid, that self-determination, that consciousness shift when people were like, we don't need the government. We don't need the United States government. Do through paper towels. And we just finished building our own town and community. But Boricuas like me, some had already moved down there, more are moving down. We, you know, my homie Eli was like, I moved here because of PR on the Map and the work we did. I didn't realize that till I recently, we were talking. I was like, no, I was like, if it wasn't you, who else was going to go with me that quickly that I knew was 100% professional? And I knew Sense from all the Rebel Diaz. And if you look at all of our videos, I tell people, go on PRonthemap.com. We archived it so everybody could take the pictures, or, you know, you'll email me, we'll talk about you using our documentaries, but people always find a way and chop it up if they need to. But that's why we kept it. And every time I'm like, I'll just look now on the website and be like, yo, we did this with 7 people, purposely brought everybody else, Eli, too, that was younger than me. I didn't want to bring anybody from my generation. I was like, I ain't trying to hear you complaining and things and the water. No, I'll take younger people. And I hadn't worked with any of them. And I don't think we had worked together. And now 10 years later, to see all of them in this like next level of who they are is beautiful. So I think the one thing that we always have to do as Puerto Ricans here in the diaspora is be like, what the only reason is a 3-hour flight, the economic conditions, understanding that Puerto Rico, like people between the age of 18 and 30 are fleeing en masse. They got to work, they got to go to school, you know, infrastructure and all of that, because of our colonial condition. So he gets it. Unless he, like, I have no illusions that someone's gonna be like, Bad Bunny read your article. Come on, this Bad Bunny. I think it's the people around him too. You know, that's what happens when you become a brand. You have to hire people, and now you have to pay people. And in a capitalist structure, people always want more. So I wrote an article because that's what I do. I'm a writer. When it hits me, like I said, I'm ready for the love and I'm ready for the hate. Because me doing this right now and y'all watching, we're just privileged right now. Like, what would it feel like for ICE to bust in doors? Oh, right, they're doing that because now you can go in without a warrant. So you think all these ICE officers are not going to be back like, wait a minute, we went to that house and they told us we couldn't come in there. We got a warrant now. We can go anywhere we want. That's officially what they're doing. You know, we don't know where it's going to hit again, but we know it's Minneapolis. And if they're going to try to remove the 3 people at the top, whether you like them or not, whether like me, you're not a Democrat, that these arrests today are their next, like, their next, what do people, so no, but their next hit. That's what that is. And mind you, you know, it's going to be a protest tomorrow. These people have no guardrails. None. Who is going to stop them? don't go out there if you're not with a crew, and don't go out there if this is your first time, is you might not be able to withstand what they're going to bring, which is new chemical agents, which is ramming people now with their cars. I mean, they murdered a white woman, so that's already gone for white people who are going to be in the streets too. They're going to try to divide people, you know, or they might very well arrest a group of people tomorrow and call them domestic terrorists and take them into custody. So if you're like posted, you know, at home like I am, and you don't have the ability to go out there, if you're working 3 jobs and you're like, I ain't going to no protest, even if it's around the corner, anything like that, this is why I'm doing this show, because I'm not going to be here pretending that everything is good. And I'm certainly not going to be, you know, attacking what the protesters are doing. So it's like, even if you don't agree, then just be quiet. Do I think there's a middle ground? Absolutely not. I never think there's a middle ground. How do you negotiate with domestic terrorists? How do you negotiate with white people who actively are like, no, we want you gone. We'll deal with all the consequences of not having you. How do you deal with the white Christian, whatever dude? Because I be watching CNN, y'all know me. I can't stand this dude, Scott Jennings. Oh my God, make this shit go viral. How the hell does Abby Phillip have him on almost every night? His disdain for Black women, like the way he's acting, and then all I could say is he's just like Trump and the other ones. That's just the way he makes his faces. Except also that a Black woman is giving him time on a major news platform, which is why the CNNs and the MS Now, and they're crumbling too. Everything, it's the empire. And that's what my article is exactly about. You can't want colonialism in Puerto Rico to end and be on a Super Bowl stage. No. Like I said, I don't have a middle ground. I do it for the ancestors. I do it for my people, my family. I do it for Richie Perez, who taught me, Dr. Gordon, and these mentors in my life. Dr. Turner, especially Dr. Turner. What a privilege to have gone and studied under Dr. Turner for my master's. And Dr. Turner would always say, you're not up here to get a degree from Cornell. You're here to become a master in Africana studies, to use everything we taught you for the benefit of the people. So folks out there who are just getting to organizing, like, you know, what can I do? And what should I be doing? I feel like all of you, I kind of know who is my people and my crew. And I feel all you have been, because I know the acronyms of people's names now who I know are always supporting the work I'm trying to do. You know, yeah, so 22 days. We'll see what happens this week. Like I said, the article is on Instagram. You can do my link in bio. You could just go to rosaclemente.net, but it doesn't automatically hit to the article. If you just go on my link in bio, it's in there. And yeah, that's where we're at. I'll see you in the next couple of days, maybe tomorrow. I'm gonna see how everybody. I'm interested in seeing people's feedbacks, not just the haters. I know how to quickly bypass them. I know of people I know, you know, by their acronym, and they could very well be Boricuas who have exactly the same politics as me. Until you clap for it, and then I'm still gonna love you. but I 100% will disagree with you. No, absolutely not. And not given what we're seeing. I shouldn't even have to preface none of that shit. I should just be like, do you see what you're seeing? Like, do you see what's on TV? Do you see what's on? You see what's happening. People think it's only Minneapolis. They already lost. And somebody just said to me, I came back from PR last week and ICE was everywhere, including the airport. Yeah. When an empire falls, the people who try to keep it going, they reconstitute themselves. And that's why I said from the very beginning that Trump, this whole past weekend and this week, was trolling about Greenland. First, most important to them, not us, the Epstein files that will never be released until the Democrat gets in there. And even that, they might stop them. Right? The Epstein files. He's like, let me go out here and start all this nonsense, act stupid. Maybe he is that dumb. Maybe he is becoming senile. Maybe he is like, I know everything he says is true. There's just other things that I ask too. Like, is this dude like straight going senile? And what happens then? And is it different than what's happening now? You know, he trolled about Greenland. And then, as usual, he makes a fool of himself on the international stage. And it's like people all over the world are also looking for what the people here in this country are going to do about this person and his administration. Because in every other country in the world, for the most part, people would be in the streets for like days and days. And everybody in Minneapolis, I don't even know how y'all doing in that weather, honestly. Like, I'm like, how do you go out there and it's 10 degrees? Some people go out there. And people were telling me, we grew up here. We're good. You know, and this is impacting everybody, you know. But look, if you want to free Puerto Rico, maybe just have a conversation with it with some of your people. I mean, but I believe I'm going to see is 90% of Puerto Ricos I see online will be celebrating and having parties and all that for Bad Bunny. I'll be listening to speeches from Albizu Campos and Lolita LeBron. That's what I'll be doing on Super Bowl 2026. Or I might be very well playing Super Bowl. Not playing, like checking to see, because if these crazy people send mad ICE agents out there, like I don't even know what that would look like. And it's in California. So it's like, what, you know, what's that going to look like? I might be watching the news right outside where Bad Bunny's performing. You know, we shall see. All right, so please just recognize everything folks are going through from Minneapolis to Maine to wherever's next. And like I said, join an organization, get your local street team. Like, you don't have to do much if you don't have the ability not to do a lot of things, you know? And there's organizations out there that you can resource a little bit, even like $10 to an organization, you know, around your block that you're like is a revolutionary type of organization. It's Black and brown people fighting capitalism and militarism, you know, give them $10 or $20, you know? We can resource our own community. We all have the ability to do that in some level. And I always think that it's okay if you're the type of person that does like little small things. Those become habit and those become consistent, and it shows you consistency. You know, some people don't have it at all. You know, so see this moment that we're in way bigger than the optics and the propaganda. I mean, I think at the end of the day, this is truly about Black and brown people being racially surveilled. And Renee Good and Keith Porter were American citizens. But it's not like citizenship mattered, especially for Black people, and a growing kind of like white angst over particularly white women who consider themselves allies or are taking, you know, in their own community, right? Not just taking the hits. Renee Good took 3 bullets. And this dude's still on duty. That's a sacrifice for real. And you could see it. The moment she's turning, she's just like, wait, let me, you know, and you could see a smile on her face, and 5 seconds later, she's dead from one of these. And now we're starting to get reports about detainees dying of homicide in their detention centers. And that's the limited information. So yeah, he trolled. His administration is very good at it. Most people fell for the bait and not remembering all of that puts everything else on the back burner. He's a master at it. He's a master of propaganda. And lastly, he's a master of money, because already he has made $1.7 billion from his presidency, which is only in year 1. And I'm not playing. Go to Democracy Now! To watch that story too. All right, everybody. Thank you. Thanks, people. DM me if you want an interview. Share it. Put it on your website. All good to me. And also Instagram always. Okay. Oh, and thank you, Rainbow 692. I appreciate you. Be safe out there. Sailor. Oh, National Congress for Puerto Rican Rights will rally. Oh yeah, absolutely, in the streets against Rudy. Yeah. That was Richie of Panama. And then Sailor. My questions were so Democratic, co-signing funding, because it's a Democratic Party. I don't need to tell you that though. Like, no, for real, it's them. I don't even think about them anymore. Where are they? I don't even know where they're at. And yeah, lots of English 7810. Just email me, Clemente Rosa. Thank you, everybody. Peace.